Welcome to the Krusty Fox, and another installment of Sex and the Shitty. This week we're measuring the gang's carnal competency in an episode entitled Was It Good For You? Gird your loins for a bit of this.
He fell asleep when he was making love to me.
This.
It's very pretty, but no.
And this.
Hey, Patrick, what are you doing?
What? You!
And don't forget to check your to-do list. Drop a like if you enjoy the ride, subscribe for a brand new go-around every week, peek in on the playlist in the top right to catch up on every episode from the very start, and stick around until the very end for last week's top comments and this week's question. We open on Charlotte getting busy with orthopedic surgeon Dr. Bram, who spends his days working on other people's bones and so forgets to focus on one of his own. As a result, he catches 40 winks literally right on top of her, but don't worry, she has a very mature and understanding reaction. Only joking, she freaks the f*** out. Later, Carrie at least tries to quell Charlotte's spiraling self-doubt by reassuring her that it isn't a passive commentary on the quality of her kitty cage. But reasoning with a York breakdown is like sharing a freeway with Caitlyn Jenner. Swerve all you like, you're unlikely to make it out alive. Naturally, Carrie tells Samantha all about it at the first available opportunity. Sam, because she's the only one of them willing to tell the actual truth, reveals she's been doing recon on Charlotte's downstairs agility at the gym, and to put it mildly, has some notes. Samantha suggests that your skill at the horizontal gene transfer is directly related to your success in life, but Carrie isn't convinced. You may recall that not 2 weeks ago, Carrie herself couldn't wrap her head around Buddy John's inability to translate allegedly expert boffing into brainwaves. But as usual, you're asked to forget all about that, just like the Smith family would like you to forget all about Willow thinking that she can control time. By way of proof of her own aptitude at pasty smashing, Samantha relates the tale of a recent meeting with gay couple David and David. The Davids, it turns out, had her there under false pretenses, namely that they'd like her to be their guinea pig in a bit of sexperimentation. Carrie's semi-horrified reaction that she's considering a dance around their maypoles leads Samantha to drop 2 truth bombs. Firstly, that Carrie is about the least open-minded sex columnist in the history of the written word. And secondly, that the turn of the millennium heralds a new age less obsessed with labels. Although she does immediately suggest that everyone will eventually wind up pansexual, which is also a label, but you get her point. But fear not, if you think this might be a liberating turning point for the show, it's still written like the creative team's idea of a boundary-busting bedroom experience is leaving your socks on. Back home, Carrie consults a pack of cigarettes about these uncharted sexual waters. Leading to this week's headline, she considers whether everybody is privately grading their sloppy slapping, and if so, how do you know if you're good in bed? Walking down the street and understandably wondering how many times she's personally flunked the test, Carrie gets hit in the arm with a discarded cigarette.
Ow!
Strangely, she doesn't immediately assume that it was thrown by a critic of her column.
Boo! You suck!
She allows the culprit, film composer Patrick, to take her for a coffee by way of apology. Once there, he reveals a lack of taste we should have divined from his choice in women when he rapidly badmouths Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and A Nightmare on Elm Street in one rancid breath. As she leaves, Carrie has a light-speed existential crisis and panics over how many
cute, smart, single smokers are there left in the world.
Literally millions, my dear, but don't let that get in the way of a stupid decision. She skips back over and manages a relatively breezy delivery of her phone number, sauntering away absolutely certain that he'll be helpless to avoid calling. 4 days later, and it turns out that Patrick isn't as susceptible to her basic charms as she hoped, with her answering machine about as empty as Ezra Miller's post-2022 filmography.
Yo, 148, 3 to the 3 to the 6 to the 9, representing the ABQ. What up, biatch? Leave it tone.
While maxing out her credit card on more crap she doesn't need, she spots Patrick chatting with a male friend and confronts him. He eventually coughs up the real reason for his absenteeism. He's an alcoholic. The poor guy assumes her unfazed attitude is down to open-mindedness and risks his recovery by asking her out properly. What he doesn't know is that she considers her own rebounding after Big to be on par with rehab from actual real addictions. Run, Patrick. Run. Over what becomes a series of dates, Carrie tries her level best to get him into her brownstone and her pinkberry. In a fatal blow to an ego that's only ever 2 steps from the cliff edge at the best of times, the most she manages is a non-consensual grope and a brief suck on his chin. When Patrick reveals that he's never done the deed sober, Carrie's quick to remedy the situation by volunteering her cloven inlet as tribute. After Patrick experiences a struggle cuddle without having had a skinful first, he reacts like a kid who just saw the corner of a PS5 box through the wrapping paper on Christmas morning. He jumps up and down on the bed, and it's all a bit Tom Cruise.
We've never seen you behave this way before.
I know.
Have you ever felt this way before?
This glowing review is very clearly all Carrie's been after though, and she can't help but sound off about her apparently 5-star front business at brunch the morning after. Halfway towards a jealous rage stroke, Charlotte starts listing her own compensatory skills, but the best she manages is being good with accessories, of which she's wearing none, so... That night, Samantha starts to have second thoughts about her planned boink session with the Davids, who showed up in matching underwear, and I'm now starting to wonder if the writers think gay men only exist in fiction. That's only compounded when their comparison of Samantha to 1930s film star Jean Harlow is all it takes to overcome her doubts. That, and the fact that the dance of the fucking Sugar Plum Fairy plays in the background throughout. However, when she tries to send them down to Yodel in the Valley, they suddenly realise that the reality isn't living up to the fantasy and leave her blue-lipped. At a tantric sex workshop Charlotte drags them all to with her, Carrie admits that she thinks Patrick isn't just enjoying being up to his nuts and guts, but might have cross-addicted to it. Charlotte shuts down this and Samantha's whinging that a gay couple didn't take her for a mustache ride so that she can better hear the erotic ramblings of their host, Dr. Shapiro. FYI, Charlotte also turned up wearing glasses and clutching a notebook because she's determined to be the teacher's pet even when the subject at hand is her own lack of sexual charisma. When the good doctor introduces the enraptured group to her husband Ronnie, none of them do the sensible thing and scramble for the door. Ron throws off his robe, lies on the floor, and allows his wife to go at his kipper ripper for a solid 90 minutes. I don't know exactly what Shapiro's doing down there, but it looks like she's trying to unblock a drain. Regardless, it has the desired effect, and good old Ron's feature-length edge session is rewarded when he fires a stream of sticky white love right into Miranda's face. There's a sentence I could have done without saying. That night, and only a week and a half in, Patrick confesses his love to Carrie and manages to get the whole sentence out without addressing any of it to her crotch. When he doesn't respond well to her arguably generous attempt to let him down gently, she proposes that they take a few nights off from making pound cake and he get himself to a meeting. Let's just take stock here, shall we, and remind ourselves that this entire storyline hinges on the idea that someone is so taken with Carrie Bradshaw's queef quarters that not gaining access puts them at risk of relapse. I'd have an easier time believing that Charlotte's political fundraising hasn't at some point indirectly financed a white supremacist group. Speaking of whom, she's back at home picking up the slack left by Carrie's uncharacteristic level-headedness. She gives Dr. Bram the full Shapiro, by which I mean working his wang like a washerwoman pounding out a stain. Since we never hear from him again, there's every chance he expired midway through and wound up Dorian Corey'd in Charlotte's closet. In the early hours, Patrick returns to the street outside of Carrie's apartment to do an inebriated impression of John Cusack in Say Anything. The endgame of this clearly well thought out plan is him exposing his nut cannon to the neighbours as the show approaches alcoholism with all the sensitivity of an Alex Jones conspiracy theory.
Turn the friggin' frogs gay! Do you understand that? Turn the friggin' frogs gay! Serious crap!
Carrie watches as the reflection of the moon in his pale ass disappears around the corner and marvels at the assumed power of her south mouth. Since Patrick likely ended that evening paying similarly intoxicated compliments to the crack between the cushions in an abandoned alleyway sofa, I'm inclined to disagree. Why hello, congratulations on making it this far. Obviously you've been to one of Dr. Shapiro's workshops. Why not bring things to a mutually beneficial climax by leaving a like and subscribing? At least here, there's no risk of getting hit by a stray shot of Ronnie's love custard. Or is there? So, last week's question was all about how you'd retaliate against the surprise crotch goblin attack at the gym. And you didn't disappoint, with commenter Karina Lagstrom proposing what I believe is known as the Petrovsky method.
Please, Carrie.
This week's question is, if a friend in crisis signed you up to a very hands-on tantric workshop, would you fake your death or stage their real one to get out of it? Answers in the comments below please, and the best will make an appearance next time. Either way, thanks for watching, and remember, if you can't be good, be crusty.